Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Neutral News Network. I am Brian, alongside with Jake and Zachary. Uh, Thank you so much for tuning in. I know we've been kind of battling some illnesses as of late, so our schedule's been kind of thrown off, and Jake is actually a little bit under the weather today as well. So we're doing our best here. Mother Nature could take a chill pill and give us a break. But we're doing our best. So thanks for sticking with us, and thanks for tuning in to another week's episode. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and break it down. We're gonna talk about the tariffs that were almost a thing, but are no longer a thing for now. So basically, we're gonna give a real high level overview of kind of what a tariff is, um, what this presidential administration was going to do with implementing tariffs on certain countries. And then eventually I'll kind of wrap up the tariff section with going through kind of what the United States imports, what they export, who they get that stuff from, and kind of show you their overall trade profile. And we'll link this website that I'm going to show you later because it's really fascinating and it's a good resource. A lot of the more technical stuff in there is you have to pay quite handsomely to access, but there's quite a lot of really useful free information. It just might be a little bit out of date. But yeah, before we crack into it, just want to say if you guys could feel free to put as many comments as you want, share the video, subscribe. That'd be greatly appreciated by both of us, Jake and myself and Zachary as well. Um,
And
so
challenge
just wanted to,
us too if we get something
yeah,
wrong.
yeah, feel free to post comments and stuff like that. We will look through and try and address those as well. That's a great point, Jake. All right. So with that, Zach, if you want to go ahead and pull up the link here, yeah. So basically, right now, this is a article from a law firm called White and Case. They go through overall the tariffs and the structures that the President Trump was getting ready to impose on Canada and Mexico. Um, Basically, a tariff is a tax or a duty that is paid on a good as it goes through customs and enters the country. So let's say, Jake, you make the finest wood chairs in all of Ireland, right?
I
So
do.
yes. So Jake charges the United States government $100 for one of your chairs. Okay. So that's what's being done on January 1st. Now January 2nd, we put a 25% tariff on all of the goods coming out of Ireland. So that means that when Jake's chair gets to the United States, the people who bought the chair. So I said the federal government bought the chair for $100, but it's really a private company. Let's just say my furniture company bought Jake's chair from Jake for $100. But when it comes through customs, I have to pay $125 because that $25 tariff, that 25% tariff turns into $25 because obviously 25% of 100 is 25. So I have to pay more money to acquire that chair from Jake. Jake still gets paid the $100 that he is owed for his chair. I am the one who has to pay the extra $25 on that good. So looks like my video just cut out. Oh, there it is. Okay. Um, so yeah. So the thing with tariffs is they are meant to encourage domestic production because me, the furniture owner, if I had just bought a chair from Zachary, who owns a chair shop in the United States, I wouldn't have to pay that tariff because it was bought domestically. So you're seeing like that's kind of why we're doing these tariffs to drive home domestic production or to use them as trading leverage. Uh, but that's why a lot of countries get really protective and really defensive when these tariffs are issued because they don't want that business to leave. They don't want that business to escape. Like the country of Ireland would rather have somebody buying the chair for $100 and they get their cut rather than you just buy everything in America and they get nothing. So you see why countries get really defensive when you start implementing these tariffs on them. So that goes into now what we're talking about with these tariffs. So Donald Trump and his administration imposed a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico. And this was for pretty much all goods except for Canadian energy goods.
Now, Brian,
Yep.
when it says 25% or like 10%, that is
Mhm.
meaning the cost of the good or service.
Y- Yes. Yeah. So that's it's an additional
Additional.
25% of whatever was already there, which I don't know what was currently
Yeah.
existing. I know that and this is a lot of people didn't know this, but Trump did issue tariffs late in his first term, and the Biden administration did not roll those tariffs back. So a lot of the tariffs that Trump implemented in his first term in 2018 and 2019 at the end, those tariffs were not rolled back by the Biden administration. So many of those are still in effect to today, till this day. Um, but yeah, so that would be an additional 25% on the import cost of that good. So same thing, if Ashley Furniture, just to throw them out there, if they're buying a sofa from Canada at $1,000, well, it's $1,000 one day when it comes through customs. The next day, it's going to be $1,250. So you can see the price jump on that is huge. And now, if
Mhm.
you're Ashley Furniture and you were selling it for 1,500, your profit just went from $500
To
down to
$250.
250. So if you want to get that profit back, you have to then raise your prices $250. So you can see why
And
tariffs can
then
be greatly inflationary.
then if you look at it that way, people aren't going to spend they're not going to want to spend that extra $250.
Right. But it also leans into the fact that then,
Or they
well, then
could.
let right, they could.
Yeah. Or it may not
Well,
matter that much.
but it could also lead to Ashley Furniture buying from Zachary's furniture stand, Zachary's furniture shop rather than, the Canadian one because maybe Zachary's sofa was for sale for 1,100. Well, now the one from
Mm.
Canada is now 1,250. So you can see where the domestic influence comes in. And if you're trying to bring domestic production back home and making it more cost effective to buy American, which is Trump's prerogative, then you can see how these tariffs can come into play and how they can be useful and effective.
Mhm. Yeah. That
So,
makes sense.
yep. But a lot of times, and in this case, they're used as leveraging tools, which Jake will cover that in a little bit. But we're going to be covering the fact that Trump had tied a lot of these tariffs and their implementation to Canada and Mexico, bolstering their support for anti drug trafficking and anti illegal immigration at the borders, both for Canada and Mexico. It's also interesting to note that the there were also tariffs that were implemented on China. They were 10%, so they were a little bit less than the Mexican and Canadian tariffs. However, there was no pause because right now the current status of these 25% tariffs for Canada and Mexico, they have been paused until next month at this time, where the administration will review this. Excuse me. All right. They were good. All right. So yeah, where the administration will do this, and then they will whether or not to ask for more things from the countries, or whether or not they'll just kind of scrap these tariffs in general. So tune in about a month later, and you should see tariffs back in the news, and we'll kind of see where it goes from there. Um, and thanks, Morgan.
I was just
We're
about to say.
eh, yeah, we're trying to keep you informed. If that makes you woke, then I don't know how to help. But um yeah, so uh there is some jargon that goes into this. Actually Zachary's hovering over it right now. But you can see with the Canadian tariffs, this law firm goes into talking about the tariff rate and then talking about the products covered. Basically that gives you kind of a insight as to um you know if there's any exceptions and all of this data that they pulled from um they pulled at the bottom. You can see their sources. A lot of it's from the executive order themselves, directly from the White House's fact sheet. So they did a lot of first person sources. Um, and this is pretty reliable information. So definitely give this website a check if you want to kind of dig in a little bit. I mean, it's only a 9-minute read. Some of the terms might be a little bit confusing, but I believe they go into explanations for some of the terms as well in order to try and make it as easy to read as possible. Like you don't need to be a lawyer to to read this article and get an understanding. So that's a plus. Um, but yeah, so I think if we go to the next
Uh,
web
Brian,
page. Okay.
Brian, I
Yeah.
have a question.
Yeah.
What is so like I can, based on what I'm going to talk about, I can kind of see the tariffs on Mexico and China.
Mhm.
Why so much Canada? What is the big deal with Canada, and why is he? What's with the tariff there?
So I probably would have to do a little bit more research on this, but I believe that there is still a non-zero amount of individuals who cross the border from Canada into the United States illegally.
Okay,
Um, I believe that a lot of that immigration is from areas that are outside Central America. Obviously, Mexico has the large quantity of the Central American population that are crossing the border, because it's actually not a lot of Mexican immigrants that are crossing the border. It's actually a lot of people from Honduras, Nicaragua,
right, yeah,
El Salvador. It's a lot of the people who are crossing the border illegally are not from Mexico. Like,
yeah. They're from South America
it's a
or
central,
Central
primarily
America.
Central America.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, let me see here. Uh, sorry, I'm doing a quick Google here. Also, this should not happen, but on the off chance that the power goes out, but we are getting a good amount of freezing rain here right now. Um, Probably won't go out, but I just want to say if Brian just disappears, then that's why. Um, let's see. Yeah, because I think okay, so yeah, Belize, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Costa Rica, and Panama. I believe the countries that are probably that probably have the largest amount are Honduras, Guatemala, and Nicaragua, potentially Belize as well. I think the rest are there's probably some, but probably not as much, if I had to guess. All right. Any other questions, Jake?
No, no, no.
Okay,
That's good.
cool. All
I
right.
just
So
something I was thinking about.
yeah, no, I definitely just think a- and and I don't want and again trying to stay as neutral as possible here. I've seen conflicting reports about the deal that he worked out with both countries actually is less National Guards troops guarding the border than what was previously guarding it, but I don't know that for sure because
Hmm.
some say that there were 15,000 during the Biden administration. So I don't know if this is an additional 10,000 or if this changes the number to 10,000. I've just seen that. So if anybody wants to look that up, like I said, I'm not making a claim that it is or is not. I've seen that because I do know they said that 10,000 troops, I believe, for Canada and for Mexico separately. So 10,000 for Canada, 10,000 for Mexico. We're going to be mobilized in order to guard the border. So
Because I remember hearing something like that too. How do
mhm.
you even? I don't know. How do you like fact check
Guard and
that?
force that.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
fact check. Oh,
yeah.
see now that's a good question because I'm not entirely sure unless you can find information that was describing the Biden administration's handling of the issue, then it may go into detail as to how many were stationed, under his presidency, or potentially looking at the language in this latest issue from Canada and say like, is it additional or is it just 10,000? Like, are they saying we're adding 10,000 or replacing 10,000?
Right.
Like, you
That's what I'm
see you see
saying.
the difference, yeah,
Yeah.
so that might be the way that you could differentiate those 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then how do you go about and how is 10,000 people going to enforce the entire border?
Uh, it's not, actually, can you go to Google Maps real quick, Zachary? If you can pull that up? And let's just go to the United States Canadian border, like, and just for context, I'm, like, in North Dakota right now, um, because Like, it's just fields. Like, it's just farm fields, you know?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I'm sure the government has plenty of ways to, um
They got, yeah, drones and all sorts of stuff.
also, this is breaking news, this is not what we typically cover, but Jimmy Butler just went to the Warriors, so
I was waiting for another I was waiting for this. I was waiting for this.
I was waiting for this. But, yeah, I mean, just you can see that so this is something that they do. As Zachary's kind of combing along the actual physical itself, they do clear cut it. I believe that they actually do clear cut the entire border from coast to coast, so that there's no trees. And you can kind of see, obviously, there they've cut through all those trees there. Um, but yeah, it's I'm trying to find a yeah. So there's a yeah, like so you can see the the border patrol or not the border patrol, but like the customs and border area. I mean, it's
Mhm.
there's no. I mean, there's a fence. Like, can you go down into the viewpoint there, Zachary? Oh, yeah, on the Canadian side. There you go. Yeah, like you can see. I mean, there's just trees. It's not like there's a big fence, big wall, nothing like that. I mean, what are you gonna do? You gonna station National Guards troops there and tell them to
Right.
search every car for illegal drugs? I I I think that this is an issue that needs to be addressed and needs
Mhm.
to be
Yeah,
fixed
yeah.
for sure. But I don't think that National Guardsmen are going to solve it. Whether that's for Canada, whether that's for Mexico, whether it's the United States, I think you need a lot more equipment, and I think you need people to man that equipment. But I don't know if you need National Guardsmen and women to facilitate the use of that equipment. If you know what I mean.
Right.
Right. And I don't
I
know if
just don't
that's
know.
yeah. Go ahead.
My other thought is, if you do, who else do you get if not the National Guard? Like, who else
Oh,
is gonna man it?
right, and that's the thing is, and I know that this administration is
And
focused on
it could be the whole illusion of control thing. You could put a bunch of them at these, like, border crossings or even in the woods or whatever, the trees, like you said, and
they're in the trees.
you might be able to just scare people away from crossing the border.
Right, just
But
as a deterrent. Yeah,
yeah,
but they're
just
really
yeah.
not doing much. They're just deterring.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But I mean, like, look at that. I mean, actually, I would hate to be that person. Like, you got to figure somebody lives in that house, right? Like, that sucks. Like, that's
Right.
gotta be like, imagine. This is a hypothetical and kind of goofy, but imagine you're out playing with your kiddo and you throw a baseball, you throw a frisbee, and it goes over. Like, what do you do? Like,
Right.
are you just relic
Do you think that's
like
housing for the, like, customs agents or whoever happens to be working here? Because there's nothing
nothing?
anywhere
What's the name
near
of that place?
Windy Gates
Windy Gates.
or
Nice. Hell yeah. Where are you from? Windy Gates, North Dakota.
We're in the game, South Dakota. I
That might be
like it.
Windy Gates, Canada.
yeah, I think Windy
That's
Gates is
that's
Canada.
that's a
The
good
US
question.
side is Maida,
Mata,
whatever.
Maeda, Maeda. Uh, all right. Well, but yeah, and that's just the thing. It's like, and actually, I can speak about this because I did this for my last job. If you go all the way down to Canada, um, or all the way down to Canada, all the way down to Mexico, uh, and you go to um, if you type in Rio Bravo, Zachary, so it's a city in Mexico, and it's right next to the Rio Grande. Um, so there are a lot of intricate levee systems that go through. So just to the north of there, yeah. So you'd have to zoom in pretty close. But yeah, so like there's a bunch of intricate levee systems that kind of run throughout the entire Rio Grande here, and you can obviously see that these are not small cities that are or small towns. Like these, fairly sizable cities that are right on the other side of the Rio Grande. And I mean, there's not a wall there. I mean, they're not putting the wall on top of the levee. I mean, they are in some
Mm.
places, but in very few places are they actively like putting a wall up like on the levee system. Um, like because here
That's
go to this
interesting. I didn't even think about the. I didn't even think about that.
right because now here's an instance where they did. I'm gonna send this to you in the chat, Zach, if you want to type that address in. I like that we're covering this because I feel like not a lot of people like know actually how borders like look and work because
Well,
everybody
people,
thinks like, oh wow, big wall at the southern border, but I mean we
people,
do have a border with Canada too.
yeah. Well, people also forget how big Canada is too.
Oh my gosh, and the fact that we share such a large border with them, yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's huge. Well, and here, yeah, here's an area right here where there's literally no wall at all. I mean it's just now, and I mean I'm pretty sure this is just levee access because the last job I worked at, I mean, some of the folks that I worked with, they would literally go down and like take pictures and be like on top of the levee and be on the border. You know what I mean? Like they would be right there, and you could just look into Mexico and no big deal. But yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
but that's it. I mean, that's not that you know, it's not that's not that big of a barrier.
Well, what's crazy to me too is there's no one out there.
Hmm. Right. I mean, and that's like yeah. I mean, you're gonna have, and again, it's the same thing. Are you gonna have guardsmen there guarding it 24/7?
Right.
Like, just what really are you expected to do there in this situation? Now,
Right.
I've also heard a story from an individual who was like doing a dune buggy like excursion out in the desert, and um, they accidentally went a bit too far. And again, in an unmarked area with no wall, no nothing. And they got chased down by a helicopter with a very angry pilot who told them to basically, like, he was hand signaling saying, turn around, go the other way.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. I mean,
were you saying something, Zachary?
No,
Okay, I thought
not
I heard you say
intentionally.
something.
it's just
Okay,
it's just kind of one of those things that you need to look at, but how do you look at it?
yeah.
Like it's
Like, how do you address it? I mean,
how do you
because
yeah.
it is a problem. Like, let's be
Right.
real, it is
Oh
a
yeah.
problem.
Mhm.
But yeah, how do you address it? Like,
What
how do
is the right
you
way to do it?
right? What is the realistic way to do it? Actually, I literally just found a
Mhm.
place where they're building the wall in this satellite image.
Or if even if there is a right way, like
Right? Is there a right
it might
way?
be such a big it might be one of those things where you're like playing against geography and the weather and a little bit of everything, and it might just be impossible to fix altogether.
Right? And I yeah, 100% agree. And
And and
I also
I mean, it goes along with like if you want to stop people from bringing in like illicit
I just sent you
substances,
another link, Zachary, or another
they're
address.
just gonna.
Sorry.
My thought is people are just gonna continue to find ways to do it.
Right. That's
It's
the
like
thing. Is like
it's like no matter how much you stop it or like if you control it for a little bit, criminals are just going to be criminals and continue to do it.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think it was here this might help. Um, but I don't know who said it, but I'm pretty sure it was some official from Mexico who said, it's not a border problem. It's the United States has a drug problem.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like we've got people who consume the illicit drugs that travel over the border. So like, of course we're gonna get it. Uh, also, is that yeah? So that's
Yeah.
yeah. So
And you put right.
look at this image, by the way. So this is a great example. Look, the wall just stops, and it's a little fence right there. by
Also,
that border
that's really
monument.
cool looking.
It's gorgeous. I was not expecting it to look like that, 100%, when I went to the when I went to that image. But like, yeah, you're looking at that image that we just sent, and the wall just stops. Like, what do you fix there? Like, you just see there's two people just sitting on the Mexico side of the border who could easily just go over that little fence right there and just be like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Unless there's
and
something in the sky watching on, like, satellites or something, but
which there probably is.
yeah,
Like,
there's gotta be
yeah,
something.
right. But that's the thing is like, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna send, like, especially if there's 600 people? I'm just saying, like, everyone talks about the caravans that went here and all that other stuff. Like, if you're talking about 600, 700, 800, 900 people and they all cross the border at the same time, you ain't catching all of them. Like,
No, it's like,
especially
the cop that busts up a an underage drinking party.
you ain't getting all of them. You'll get
You're
some.
not getting all yeah, you'll get some.
Yeah,
You're not getting all of them.
right. And that's the thing. It's just it is a monumental problem with no easy solution. Anybody who says they can fix it like snapping their fingers is tricking you.
Mhm.
Anybody, I don't care what political side they're on. If they tell you they can solve the border issues with a snap of a finger, they're lying to you.
No, and they might eventually.
Right? Yeah, with time,
It's
with time.
time.
It's a process.
It's not gonna happen overnight.
And the thing is that there's other things outside of anything that an American politician can do that will influence this. Like, we haven't been doing anything, and I mean, okay, we might have been doing things in I don't know. I haven't talked to the CIA. They haven't talked to me. But we haven't been doing anything in Nicaragua, Honduras, these countries that have been destabilized and that are sending these up here. You know, the United States didn't just say, "Hey, you guys, send them up here." Like, no, just stuff happens. Sometimes you have really strong waves, like COVID. Like, we didn't ask for COVID to happen, but it did. We didn't ask for the people to come up here, but they did. So these crises come up out of nowhere, and they're not easy to fix. I
Mhm.
mean, these are huge crises. It's not like just, oh, put a band-aid on it. You got a little boo-boo. No,
Yeah.
these are real human beings that are
Mhm.
frankly risking their lives to try and find something better than the hellhole that they're leaving from. So like it's a let's look at it from a bit more humanity, like empathy.
Right. Yeah, they're
Uh,
not and most of them aren't bringing it I don't know this for a fact, but I'd assume most of them aren't bringing the drugs in. A lot of
right,
them
and that's
are
the thing.
coming over to escape whatever they're trying to escape from.
And there
And
are
that could
a
be oppression from cartels.
from cartels. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because that's the thing is that the cartels might ship their stuff to the United States, but they aren't nearly as prevalent in the United States.
Correct. The
Yeah,
drugs are, but
the drugs are, and the people who
mhm,
facilitate the trading of those drugs are. So there is gang stuff, but I mean, I feel like gangs and cartels in the United States work different. Like, they're not on the same tier. Like,
correct.
obviously,
That's
a
correct.
cartel is a gang, but a gang is not a cartel. You know, it's like all rectangles or all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares. That
Mhm.
kind of analogy.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, this is kind of teetering into what you want to talk about. So I want to cover one
No, yeah, go for
perception.
it. Let me
Yeah. So let's go.
give me a
Yeah.
second to pull up my stuff.
Yep. So this is a really cool website. It's called OEC. So you can go to oec.world and start googling this stuff and searching just kind of trade patterns, everything like that. So you can see a lot of the data is a little bit out of date. Obviously, we're 3 years old now with some of these. And 2024 was just a couple weeks ago. So this has only been 2 years old. But you can see kind of where the United States ranks in complexity, technology complexity, research, imports, exports, things of that nature. So, one of the things that I really wanted to scroll down to, if you could, Zachary, is there's a historical data, and you'll know when you get there. It'll just be a bunch of colors. Yeah, so right there. So you can see, um, right now Zachary's got it selected on imports, so you can see who we import the most stuff from. Okay, so Trump almost tariffed our three. Well, he did tariff one of them, China. He almost tariffed our three largest suppliers of goods. Mexico, Canada, and China. So if you click on Mexico, for example, Zachary, so this shows you what we import from the country of Mexico. So theoretically, if he put a 25% tariff, tariff, not a tax. I mean, you can interchange the word a little bit. But if you put a 25% tariff on Mexico, everything you see in here would get 25% technically added to the cost of that. And you can see that is $421 billion worth of goods that are coming directly from Mexico. That is a lot of stuff. And you can see cars, computers. There's oil in there that we import from Mexico, which don't get me started. That's a whole other thing that annoys me, but I get it. It's a global market, it's a global world, whatever. But yeah, so you can see in the bottom left there, there's some text, and it shows you what our our most expensive imports are. So crude is at 200 billion, cars 159 billion, broadcasting equipment, computers, and it goes down the list. Um, and then oh, sorry, that's actually a comprehensive of the world. My apologies. I thought that was just for Mexico, but that is a comprehensive of the world. But if you click over on Mexico or Canada, sorry, I'm getting everything confused. Whoa. Anyways, so you can see that some of our largest imports from Canada is crude oil, which now Trump did say that he was going to keep that at 10% for the month, and he was going to. This is with the original plan, if the tariffs would have been implemented, and he was going to reassess that in the middle of February. Um, so obviously, with that being on hold, that's not up in the air for right now. But you can see we also import cars, wood, lumber, um, gas, refined petroleum after it's been through refinery, aluminum, and a bunch of other metals, minerals, and so on. Um, and then last but not least, if you want to click on the China button up at the top, yeah, so you see again, broadcasting equipment, computers, plastic products, toys, seats, machine parts, other plastic products. So I mean, like, and again, 551 billion. Canada, I think, was 438 billion. I mean, these are huge numbers. And again, this is all stuff that you're going to have to pay 25% on or 10% on once it gets to the United States. The countries themselves aren't they don't have to pay that to the United States. They're not, we're not collecting that money. Like, so we're not collecting it directly from China. We're not collecting it definitely or directly from Canada. We're collecting it from Ashley Furniture when they buy that, sofa from China, or when they buy that from Mexico or Canada or wherever. And then now the same thing goes in reverse. So if you click on that export button in the upper left hand, Zachary, so now you can see what we export to another country. So if we start getting retaliatory tariffs put against us, so let's go to Canada because they were going to slap us with, I'm pretty sure, the exact same thing. They were going to slap us with 25%. So you can see that we export cars to them, petroleum to them, plastic lids, precious metal scraps, broadcasting equipment. So a lot of the same stuff, but delivery trucks. So you can see that, that's all stuff that they in turn would have to pay more for if they slapped us with the tariff. So Canada would, the Canadian citizens would also have to pay more. And then same thing if you click on Mexico, you can see that we export petroleum to them, circuits, medical instruments, motor vehicle parts, corn, soybeans, and then last but not least with China, the big things, a lot of the a lot of the that you see around Ohio, I mean, a good chunk of them go towards China. I mean, not obviously the majority, but you can see that a lot of the imports that we send their way are agricultural products in that big yellow box down there. But circuits, cars, crude oil, things of that nature, vaccines, blood, um, other medical um, resources and things like that as well. So it's it again, this is a really fascinating website
Remind
that you could really dig into. So
remind me to talk about what you just talked about with like pharmaceuticals, us
okay,
exporting to China, because that's
okay,
because I'm putting something together here with my with my information. I just want your take on it when I get into it. But
Gotcha. And if you're watching, again, if you guys could like, comment, subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Obviously, we've done some pretty good research here, and we want to make sure that you guys are as informed as possible. So feel free to share this with your well. I mean, any if they can at least sit in and listen to one of our episodes, and if they find something valuable and they can stick around, that'll be worth everyone's while. So
yeah,
um,
just even as if we teach somebody something.
every episode, if we teach one person one thing, it's a better world than it was before we started.
Or we even just make them question. If you just
Yeah.
think we're
Yep.
idiots and you want to look it up for yourself, hey, we did our job.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. We're so bad. We are so bad at doing what we want to do that we've convinced somebody else to look it up themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we should just be terrible and not give them
Yeah.
any
Yeah, there
information.
you go. Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, that actually pretty much wraps up the segment that I wanted to talk about. I feel like that gives people a good understanding of like what tariffs are, how they're impactful, and then this website here again. If you're bored, I would definitely poke through here. I mean, it doesn't have to be the United States. You can like Jake asked me to look up Colombia earlier, so we looked through that together before the episode started. So again, you can do a lot with this website here, and there is some stuff that you can see. It's only with Pro, but there is also quite a large amount of data in here that is free for people to view um, without having to pay $1. So with that, yeah, Jake, I'll lead it over to you.
Okay, so it kind of goes off to what Brian was talking about, but I want to get into um, drugs and the drug trade specifically with fentanyl because you just hear about fentanyl constantly, and
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of people don't fully understand what fentanyl is or what it does, or even where it's manufactured. Um,
Happy to
so
help,
I
Morgan. By the way.
so I just kind of want to get into that. So fentanyl, it's a powerful synthetic opioid pain reliever used medically to manage severe pain, especially in individuals who are tolerant to other opioids. It is estimated to be 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. Morphine being the drug you take when you are in severe pain.
Uh,
Oh,
I
go ahead.
just want to point out that I've only ever been on morphine as far as I know in my life, and it was I mean, you feel like you are in a perpetual state of needing to take a nap. Like it's like you're not tired, but your body is like just just woo. So it's a really hard feeling to describe. But I just had an ER visit a little bit ago, which is why we didn't have an episode 2 weeks ago. And they gave me that while I was there, and it let me tell you, just even with morphine, not needing fentanyl, it does the job. So
Yeah. And so fentanyl has various medical uses. Like I said, prescribed for severe pain, after surgery specifically, or for cancer patients who are in constant pain. And maybe that morphine just doesn't do the job. Um, so they need something stronger to help them manage that pain. Um, and now you can kind of see where fentanyl can be abused. So let's just continue on the medicine. Continuous pain relief over a period of time, typically 72 hours, and it can be injectable, used in hospitals for acute pain management or anesthesia. Lozenges or lollipops are used for managing breakthrough pain in cancer patients. So what fentanyl does, it binds to the opioid receptors in the brain and spinal cord, which are responsible for regulating pain and emotions. When fentanyl binds to these receptors, it blocks pain signals while also producing feelings of euphoria and relaxation. I thought that was interesting. I thought all the, like, the science and kinda what it does is kinda interesting.
You know
So I
who
put
would
it
have been
in
a
here.
great resource for this if we had the time, and he would be interested in coming on? Adam.
Adam, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, he could
100%.
he could explain the actual like if,
Like, what
chemistry
it
and
does to the
medical.
brain, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. We'll
Um,
have to revisit this sometime.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, maybe when we start doing, like, if we ever get to the point where we have guests on or whatever.
Hmm.
Um,
Once we get to
so
100 subscribers, we'll start doing guests.
okay. Okay. One of the dangerous side effects of fentanyl is that it can slow or stop your breathing. At higher doses, it can be fatal. Um, I believe the lethal dose is like 2 nanograms of fentanyl. It's like a super low amount.
Correct. And I'm almost
I could be
positive.
wrong. I could be wrong on that, but it's like it's stupid low.
Let's see. Uh, 2 milligram. 2 milligram.
Milligrams. Okay.
Similar to
Still,
5 to 7 grains of salt.
yeah, it's stupid low. Okay. So, where was I? And then that could be why it's super addictive. It causes those feelings of euphoria and
Oh, hey, Adam is here,
oh,
and
he is
he says you're doing great.
awesome. Thanks, Adam. All right. So harmfulness. Fentanyl is so potent, even small amounts can cause overdose. The margin between a therapeutic dose and a lethal dose is very small, especially if the person is not tolerant to opioids. So this is why this is why people that get up they use heroin, for example, for a while. They stop doing it. Then they go back and try to do the same dose that they were doing. Then they OD. Kind of similar to that. Like you're going to want to push the envelope to continue feeling that high that you're getting. Um, uh, Fentanyl overdoses are often fatal and can result in respiratory arrest, addiction, and dependencies. Fentanyl, like other opioids, carries high risk of addiction as it activates the brain's reward centers. Regular use can lead to physical and psychological dependence. Um, and fentanyl can be fentanyl can be absorbed through your skin as well, um, no matter how small. So, just handling the substance itself is extremely dangerous. Um, without like any PPE or other safety equipment.
And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but there have been many occasions where first responders, just simply going and responding to an
Hmm.
overdose situation have found themselves overdosed on fentanyl themselves,
Yeah,
just
they
simply for
just
that reason. Yeah.
yep, just like touch like patting a subject down, they have it on them, or like something with it in them,
Hmm.
or like EMTs, I'm sure, trying to
Hmm.
save somebody.
Yeah, wear your gloves, kids.
Hmm. Yeah. So fentanyl and street drugs, one of the most dangerous aspects of fentanyl is it's present in illicit drugs. It is often mixed with heroin, counterfeit prescription pills, or other substances without the user's knowledge, dramatically increasing the risk of overdose. So I know a lot of cartels, specifically in Mexico. They will take these. They'll take like prescription pills, and they'll like fill them with fentanyl and then put them back together and put them in various items and find ways to get them across the border.
and and I mean, this is just I don't know if you've done any uh research into this, but I mean, like, I've never actually crossed a border, but like
No.
imagine. Right, like, well, I mean, even, legally, like, I've never gone to Mexico. The only
Mm,
time I've ever left the country is on a cruise. But like, my thought process is like, you know, the scenario in which I get a prescription for ibuprofen, right? And
mhm,
I'm throwing out an example here because I don't know the names of a lot of drugs, but I get a prescription for ibuprofen, and I've got a prescription container of it that I take with me to the border. And like, are they
yeah,
gonna are they gonna like when I come back from Mexico to the United States and I've got this prescription bottle of ibuprofen, like, are they gonna search
right.
it? Like,
See,
do they search your person? Or I really don't know how that works. I've never.
I don't know how it works either.
Yeah.
But like, is it?
'Cause and I just want to say the only reason I say that is because I did come back from Las Vegas one time. I bought a container of barbecue seasoning, and they legit, like, I had it in my bag, right? They made me take it out. They made me take it out, and they ripped it open. It was completely sealed. Still had the price tag on and everything. They opened it up, ripped it open, and they tested it for methamphetamines at the airport,
Hmm,
and they gave it back to me. Like,
wow.
I was like, I didn't even leave the country. I just went to Vegas for a bowling trip, and then I was coming back to Dayton.
See, see,
Like,
my thought is if they believe that it is an illegal substance, they can act in good faith to search that or
right.
test it
I mean,
however they need to.
and the only thing that kind of ticked me off was that the price tag was still on it, and the safety seal was still on it. And honestly, like, once the dude at the airport handled it, he tried to give it back to me, and I was just like, "No, you can have it." He's like, "But it tested negative." I was like, "I don't care. I don't want it anymore. Like, you've opened it, you've touched it. I get it.
Yeah,
You were wearing a bunch of gloves, but you had it back in there with a bunch
I
of other
wouldn't
equipment.
I
I
wouldn't
don't want
want
it.
it either. Yeah.
Yeah." I was like, and like, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty pissed off at the time. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it was a $13 bottle of seasoning. I mean, it's not super expensive, but it wasn't cheap either. So I
Right.
was just kind of like, ah, whatever. I was grumpy anyways. I
Just the
didn't bowl very
hassle.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Just a hassle, and I'm like, it's seasoning. It had. I get it if it's open. I get it if it's, if it even looks suspicious, but it had the price tag on it and the safety seal and everything. Why? Why?
Um,
Anyways, continue. Sorry,
no, it's
Brian's
all right. It's just
seasoning rant is
I mean,
over.
that's a good point though. It's like
Yeah.
how do you I could see why they would have done that something like that. But like
Yeah. Maybe I was just the
when it
one
comes
random dude. I
when
was the
it
one
comes to
random guy that they had to check, and
when it comes to prescription pills, maybe they're just checking if it's your name on it.
right. Well,
I don't know how in depth their search goes
but now
with
think of a
that at the
cartel
board like
member,
at the border. Yeah. Well, they're
because like a
they're
car.
and it's not just Mexico either. We get a lot of the illegal fentanyl from China too.
That's true. That's
Um,
true. Yeah,
and so my
fentanyl finds its way into the United States from every border. Let's just be clear.
and we manufacture it legally for medical purposes.
Yep.
So I mean, the only reason they make it in those the like Mexico and China and ship to us is because they have they're called precursor chemicals. They're more readily available in those countries, and
I'm
those
guessing something
are
to do with the tropical environment.
I don't I don't know. I just have the definition of precursor chemicals, and they're substances that are used in the production or synthesis of another, often more complex or a final chemical compound. They are usually part of the manufacturing process for a wide range of chemicals, including pharmaceuticals, industrial products, and sometimes illegal substances. Um, Precursor chemicals are often used to manufacture drugs, explosives, or other illegal substances. Authorities monitor the sale and distribution of these chemicals to prevent misuse. That's my guess is there's not a lot of regulation of these chemicals in these in Mexico or China. I don't know that for a fact, so I'm not going to speak to that. The regulations on these precursor cursor chemicals, but they can they're used in everything from manufacturing to research and development, like producing medicines, fertilizers, and plastics. So I'm assuming it's like how we have regulations on how much fertilizer you can get
Right.
or stuff like that.
Hmm.
But my guess is they don't have these as many regulations in these countries, and that's why they can just get these chemicals at will, and
Or the just the enforcement isn't there.
or the enforcement's not there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
But because yeah, I'm sure if Jake goes to Ace Hardware and gets 300 pounds of ammonium nitrate and a bunch of water bottles, I you might end up on a list really quick.
oh,
Like
really, like instantly.
So
yeah. So
from my time at CVS, we used to deal with a problem with people stealing body wash and shampoo because you can extract ingredients out of those to make
Mm.
meth. So
yeah,
people would come in, grab them by the armfuls, and just dip. It was
See, a lot
wild.
of I don't know
interesting.
if this is true, but I heard something similar to diapers. You could you could rip the lining out of diapers and or whatever, and like the absorbent pads,
Hmm.
and
There's probably some type of
use that
silicate
to
in there.
use that to manufacture some sort of illicit
I mean, I
substance.
didn't know for the longest time that Sudafed was used to make meth, which is why I was like, why do I always have to get Sudafed from, but like, why is it always behind the counter? I never
Hmm.
never put two and two together. I always thought it was because it was maybe more powerful or stronger, and it was like, no, it's because it's used to make meth. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's the other that brings me to my what I was going to ask you about earlier is, so we're exporting these certain pharmaceuticals to China, correct?
Yeah, we're probably doing a litany of they export some to us, we export some to them. I mean,
Do,
there's yeah.
do you think that it's possible for us to export these things and then they send them back with fentanyl in it?
Um, that is a good question. I doubt it, and the only reason I say that is that it's probably not in mass quantities, mostly because
Okay.
I think that like it could happen, but I don't think that would happen in mass just because I think there's probably too much of a paper trail, like, saying this drug should have gone to this place, and if it comes up missing, then that would probably raise some red flags, and, or if it's, or maybe if something's different with it, I'm sure it goes through all sorts of quality checks, like if it goes through like the normal system. So I would think that that would be unlikely. Again, I'm not an expert, but that's my gut feeling slash thought on that. If anybody in the chat, aka Adam, if you have any insight on that, feel free to
Yeah.
let us know. I don't know if
I
you would, but
I just don't I don't know about um how I don't know what they would be putting it in to get it over here.
well, I mean, everything. I mean,
That's what I'm saying, but you can't handle it
oh well,
because
you can just put it. You can put it in a package. You could put it in like, well, that's the thing. You've seen like the bricks of cocaine and stuff like that that
that's
they
true.
yeah, like that they
I'm just
ship,
trying.
or they'll
Yeah.
put it into a submarine, and like they'll the thing is
Okay,
that the
I'm thinking of small. You're thinking of big. That makes more sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because like you're thinking of like pill bottles and like
Yeah, I'm
maybe
thinking of
like
small like
suitcases.
quantities. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
because and, this is like a side note, but did you know that when the Soviet Union collapsed, the cartel actually wanted to buy like a nuclear sub from Russia when the Soviet Union collapsed?
Mm, I did. Yeah,
Yeah, okay. You
the
did hear
cart
about that?
yeah, well, that's the other thing too, is the cartel have been prevalent forever. They're just gonna
Yeah.
find a new drug, new something to sell to United States citizens.
Right, and that's why the Mexican official made a very good point. It's like, we don't have a border problem. We have an Americans wanting to just do drugs problem. Like if the American market wasn't there, then guess what? The drugs wouldn't come here because nobody would buy them.
Yeah,
All right.
it's still all about money, and if the market is
Yeah,
in the United States, they're gonna find a way to bring the drugs in.
exactly. Like and that's why I feel like a lot of times we don't as a country we don't see it that way and it's kind of that it's the blessing of and curse of viewing ourselves as the ideal society in the world. We can do no wrong, right? But in reality, when we have a drug epidemic like this, you have to ask yourself, well, why are the drugs coming here in the first place? It's because we have a epidemic, and if we
Mhm.
don't do things to stem the drug epidemic, then the drugs are just going to keep coming here, and then more people are going to get hooked on the drugs. So you can't fight the drug epidemic by simply cutting off the drug supply, because guess what? That'll just make the black market more enticing for more people to join because another guy got knocked off. Oh, this guy got knocked off. Now there's a power vacuum. Somebody else will step in and fill his place, raise the
Well,
price on
yeah.
the drugs, and then guess what? More drugs will still come in.
Well, that's like,
But
was it
if
was
everybody
it
in America got the therapy to get rid of the drugs, then you'd be fine.
who
Nobody would
was
want
it?
to use them, and you're good to
Escobar
go.
when he died when he
Pablo
got
Escobar, yeah.
yeah, when he got killed, everyone just wanted his spot, and then
Well,
the
right, and then that
cartel
starts.
continued. Yeah.
Right, and then that starts a war in a different part of Mexico, and then that starts up more corruption, and then the
Yeah.
the it's crazy how much the United States drug problem impacts Mexico negatively.
Yeah.
Even though Mexico has they can only do so much. It just so happens that the cartels are in Mexico.
Mhm.
Like the cartels could have been in Canada, but I'm guessing a lot of the stuff like you can't grow the stuff for cocaine in Canada unless you've got a greenhouse. So,
Yeah. It's I mean,
but I mean,
you can make it synthetically. You can
right,
make
which
a bunch of s you can make a lot of things synthetically, and then it but that's I mean, people are gonna do that anyway.
right, people are gonna do that
I mean,
anyways.
there's already, like, synthetic marijuana too.
Yeah. There's
I
also
mean,
the Sinaloa cartel that I think that's who replaced Escobar once he got arrested.
I don't know enough about the cartels, but I think it's interesting.
I
Um,
think we need to do more treatment to fix people, get
I
them off the
I
drugs.
I agree. I mean, there's the drug problem is never gonna go away. It's how you get people that are addicted to drugs the help that they need.
Right, because if you get the people who are addicted help and make it so they no longer want to do drugs, then guess what? You've
They won't buy
taken
drugs.
some of the power away from the cartels.
Mhm. Yeah.
The only reason they have power is because they have money, and the only reason they have money is because Americans are addicted to drugs. And the only
Mhm.
reason more
I'm
Americans get
sure some
addicted to drugs.
Mexicans I'm sure some
Right.
Mexicans are too,
But it's
and Central
yeah.
Americans, yeah.
But you know what the difference is? They don't have the
Well,
money.
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. Mm-mm.
There's not I mean, they do have money, don't get me wrong, but there's not as much money in Mexico,
Well,
Colombia, Nicaragua, Honduras as
it's
there
why
is in the United States.
it's why they say like cocaine is the doctor and lawyer drug.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not cheap.
No, it's not cheap. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
Drugs are bad.
I don't yeah, is this a Dare episode?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
kind of turning into that. I feel like,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's I mean that's all I got.
All right. Well, I mean, honestly, we're pretty good on time. I know we just hit the 1 hour mark. I know we started like a couple minutes late. So I think again, this is kind of my, you know, uh, little spiel. Feel free to comment in the chat before we end up heading off here. Subscribe, things like that. But Zachary, is there anything you want to kind of wrap us up with here this
I have
wonderful Wednesday evening?
I have one thing and one thing only. 50 days until opening day. That's it.
Woo!
That's all I got.
Woo! Nice. Heck yeah.
Also, if you buy anything from China and it comes through the USPS, good luck.
Oh,
Yeah, the USPS is no longer accepting packages from China.
that's what I. Okay, yep,
Yeah.
I did remember hearing
So,
that.
I
I
have
thought I
one
saw.
thing that I
Uh-huh.
ordered that is coming from China. I didn't know that until I looked. Where is it at? Well, what will happen to it? We'll find out. But it
Well, you want your
Oh,
money
no
back.
tracking updates in like 3 days now. So
Well, if
Huh.
know.
you never get it, hopefully you get your money back.
I better.
Hey,
Very
I
sad.
mean, I got this from China, and I like it a lot. Yes, my Temu watch.
Your Temu watch.
Yeah, it gets the job done. You know, what can I say? It was $18, and just kind of like what Zachary said, it's like the tracking updates just. I mean, this is a while ago now, but the tracking updates just stopped, and then it just showed up at my door one day.
hmm
What if it has fentanyl in it, guys?
Good.
Just take the face off. Maybe it will.
It licks it, dies.
Yeah.
All right.
It's
Well,
scary,
on that note, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Neutral News Network. Greatly appreciate y'all tuning in. And again, please, I know we're beating a dead horse, but if you guys can just take the time to share this with your friends, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's Snapchat, any kind of social media, it would mean a lot to us. I mean, we're trying to grow this. We're trying to make this a real big thing, and slowly work this up into something that's really cool and really educational for individuals who watch. So again, thanks so much for your time, and I hope you all have a great rest of your week.